Good day, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Ranking the Movies of 2024. And here we are. We're in the theaters right now. We're heading into 2025. We're going to be speaking about all the movies. Now, obviously, a lot of movies came out this year, so I didn't get a chance to see everything under the sun. But, half of this list as well, Frenzy has seen. Previously, you knew him as Tom. You might have known him as Frenny121. But now you can find him over on TikTok at Frenzy doing regular streams for video gaming or just streams for a bit of fun, just chatting. We've been doing this for 4 years now. We started sort of during the pandemic. Most of the time we actually do it next to each other, but we thought we'd do this little setup. And mate, you're tired. You've had a big Christmas. You just got back from Japan.
Exactly.
You've had a big couple of weeks, man.
That's it. But no, this will be good.
It will be good. It will be good. There's plenty of movies to get through. So look, I won't spoil movies for you guys. I may say some things about the comedy, the action, but I will try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. First off, let's start with Argyle. Now, Argyle came out right at the start of the year. I believe it came out New Year's Day. It had a good cast around it, Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, and it was a movie with also Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. It was a movie with potential. It was a movie with some fun ideas, but the way that it executed those ideas and then sort of revealed things that weren't actually reveals. I'm trying to not spoil it, but basically this is a movie that loses its direction and kind of fools the audience, but not in a smart way at all. So I wasn't real wrapped on Argyle. I was looking forward to it, and it was good to get back in the theaters for the first time this year. But I'm going to give Argyle a 5 out of 10. I found it very disappointing. I thought there was some okay moments throughout it. There was some cool scenes where the movie took away a direction where they were sort of staying in a sort of a low key, I guess, sort of place. And that was where it took a nice turn. But overall, just wasn't great. Let's move into Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, it's been a long time since Kung Fu Panda 3. It's been about 8 years since we saw Po and the gang. And in this film, not really a spoiler, but we don't particularly see the Furious Five. We see more of a Po story as well as a new character. I was really looking forward to this film. I thought it looked promising. There were lots of rumors about returning characters, which I won't say whether you do see them. I'll let you go first, Tom. What did you think of Kung Fu Panda 4, Jack Black's return as Po?
Well, I've seen this movie twice. Twice with work. First time I didn't really get to watch it because I was doing bathroom duties. But the other time I watched it, I had not seen the third one. I don't think I've seen the third one at all, so I didn't know what I was coming into. But the first and second one were very good. This one, I can't remember much about it, so I'll just give it a rating. I'll give it a 6. I remember vaguely stuff about it, but I don't want to spoil it if anyone hasn't seen it. But a 6 out of 10 for this one.
Yeah, I do remember this one, and I was extremely disappointed. So this is Kung Fu Panda 4, and this is getting a very low rating, a 4 out of 10. I did not enjoy this movie at all. I thought Awkwafina was awful as well in her role as this sort of new character, but there was a lot to dislike for me about Kung Fu Panda 4, and let's dead and bury this franchise. As you said, the first two were great. I actually loved the third one too. I thought the third one was pretty good. But this one was just a no-no. Next up, we've got Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, I absolutely loved Ghostbusters Afterlife. I thought it was really good. I thought it set up a future sort of franchise in a different direction with some very cool actors and actresses in the coming years. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, for me, it tries to play on horror elements, and sometimes that works. But there is this sort of B storyline that did not work in the film at all and felt very, very forced for me. And that's sort of something that ruins the movie. There was still some great nostalgia moments. So I did have a good time watching this, but I couldn't give it a very, very high rating because of some of the things it had forced into the movie that didn't need to be there. So for me, I'm going to give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a 6.5. Bit of a higher score than the first couple of movies, but still not one of the greatest of the year.
Yes, going off Hayden said, that it was a good movie that had some nostalgic in it, but it's one of those franchises that they need to just stop making. I think this is the last one, maybe. I'm not too sure, but if they make another one, I don't know how they're going to go off from doing this one. I'll give this a 5 out of 10.
There you go, pretty low for both of us there on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Next up is Godzilla versus Kong, A New Empire. Now, I actually was a fan of Godzilla versus King Kong a few years ago. Me and Nan saw that film in theaters, and we were looking forward to the sequel. And there's a few things to like about the sequel, but honestly, there's more to dislike than like. And I was actually really disappointed by this film. It was a lot worse than I was expecting it to be. I just didn't care too much about the character direction, and they just didn't take their time with newer characters as well, besides that little sort of monkey, if you know what I mean. But I'm going to give Godzilla versus Kong a 4.5 out of 10. I was really disappointed, and a lot of these movies, it's not a great start to the year. You didn't get to see this one, Tom.
No, I did not.
That's all right. Save your dollars. Next up is Abigail. Now, Abigail was one I avoided for a little while. I think I've spelt that wrong now that I'm looking at it. But I watched Abigail on the plane on the way to LA. Yeah, I was sleepy. It made me sleepy, which means it's not a great film. But, I mean, I do give credit to this film for trying to be scary. Then it goes sort of over the top stupid, but it tries to be scary. It tries to introduce characters that are very mysterious with different backgrounds. And I like those sort of films that do that. So there was some things I liked about this film, but there was more that I didn't like. I thought the acting was okay. Some of the actors were doing a great job. Some of them were awful. Not too low of a rating, but I'm going to give Abigail a 5.5 out of 10 for mine. Next up, we've both seen this one, Tom. It's Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal in Roadhouse. It's a remake of the classic film from, I think, the 80s. And all I think of when I hear Roadhouse is Peter Griffin saying Roadhouse and walking around the place kicking his family. Don't do that, guys. But Roadhouse, for me, is a very stupid film. There are lots of, you could easily give this film a 3 out of 10 and say it's absolutely garbage. Which a lot of the critics were doing. But, I mean, if you go into this with an open mind and you know it's not going to be the greatest thing in the world, it has some all right, not great, all right action sequences. It has some awful acting but funny sort of one-liners. And I actually had a good time with this. I enjoyed this film a lot more than I thought I would. So I'm going to give Roadhouse a 6 out of 10.
I have not seen the original one, so I had no idea what this movie was about. But yeah, like he was just saying, it is a bit. Some of the lines were cringe. The action was. Some of the fight scenes and action scenes were cringe as well. But then again, Conor McGregor was in it. Had some funny one-liners. Jake Gyllenhaal looked like he got ripped for this movie. Like that UFC fight scene, that was good. I'll give this a 6 as well out of 10.
Yeah, same as me. Next up, I've got this one in the background here. Now, just because I've got it in the background, guys, does not mean these are my favorite movies of the year. Obviously, I blasted you, Kung Fu Panda 4, but another one I watched on the plane, avoided for a while, Challenges with Zendaya. Zendaya playing a tennis coach, an assistant coach, whatever you want to call it. Now, this is such a strange film because I both liked it and didn't like it. It felt like it was going nowhere, had no direction, but had really, really well done camera work. I thought the direction of the film as director-wise was great, but storyline plot wasn't great. I think it's worth a watch. It's an interesting film. It does have some cringy moments in it, though, that probably take points away. Overall, I'm going to give it a 5.5. I do think it was better than I thought it may be, but when the film ended, it just ended so suddenly. It didn't feel like it needed a sequel. It didn't feel like it made sense. And that's why I struggled with Challenges. But I got to say, some of the camera work in the film was really, really good. And some of the tennis scenes were cool as well. Next up, Yeah, you're on a bit of a dry spell here. I'm
Yes.
seeing these movies here, but Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I watched this at IMAX in Brisbane around Magic Round time. Big fan of the original trilogy. I thought, oh no, here we go again. They're milking this franchise. But I actually think this film was very good. I thought the action was good. I thought the storyline was good. I thought the acting from both humans and apes, well, the CGI at least, was very, very good. Really enjoyed this film. I'm looking forward to another Apes movie in the future because they do sort of set up a different direction. As long as they don't take these monkeys to space like Fast and the Furious. But I'm going to give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes an 8 out of 10. I think it was one of the bigger and better surprises of the year. Next up is a Bad Boys Ride or Die. Now, I enjoyed Bad Boys for Life. We saw that film 3 years ago, me and Tom, in theaters. This one you haven't gotten to see yet. This one has some good comedy. It has some cringy moments. It was great to see Griffith return in a role in acting after seeing him as Mr. Fantastic all those years ago. Seeing him in some TV roles. Good to see him step back into a sort of main role. The comedy of Martin Lawrence and Martin Lawrence's kid in the film, Reggie, was fantastic. Overall, it's sort of a hit and miss film, though. I mean, I'll give it a 6.5, but I easily could understand why you would put this one lower. I just don't understand how it's considered as a nominee for a Razzie because it's nowhere near the worst film of the year. It had some great action in it, but it did feel a little bit cliche at times as well. All right, welcome back, Tom. It is Inside Out 2. Now, Inside Out 2, Disney has struggled for me with films for a long time, and I wanted them to get this one right. They took 9 years, obviously, to make this film and get it out in theaters for everyone. It made some massive money at the box office, so people love this. Well, you can call it a franchise now because there's multiple films.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I liked Inside Out 2. I think that throughout the film, it was good, but not as good as the first film. However, the ending to Inside Out 2 is absolutely perfect. This is one of the best kids' movie endings to a film that they have nailed. It is emotional. It is fun. I really enjoyed Inside Out 2 overall. I think upon a rewatch, it's even better. I think the first time you see it, you might be a little bit confused. Rewatch it. I'm giving Inside Out 2 a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really, really solid Disney film or Pixar film.
I would have to watch it again, but the first time I watched it at the cinemas, it was very good. The ending as well was good. I liked the little secret you found out at the end, that a deep, dark secret. I do think the first one is only just a bit better by a tiny bit because I like both. I like this franchise. Great movie. I'll give this a 7.5 out of 10.
Same rating as me. Moving on to A Quiet Place Day 1. Now, I'm pretty sure me and you saw A Quiet Place 2. I don't think we saw A Quiet Place 1. That was a few years ago now. And look, I wasn't looking forward to this film because I actually don't like A Quiet Place 2, but I love the first film. And seeing this direction of where creatures came from, getting some explanations, getting some great actors and actresses in the film, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. A Quiet Place Day 1 is not worth watching, in my opinion. It doesn't answer questions. It puts you to sleep. I watched this movie at a theater drive-in. I had the radio up loud, listening to this, trying to pay attention. It's not great. Really not great. Really disappointing. I haven't got much more to say to this. Tom hasn't seen it, and he do yourself a favor. And
don't plan on seeing it.
Yeah, I just don't understand. You hype up this film saying we're getting answers to the questions, and mess, absolute mess. Next up, Despicable Me 4. Now, Tom, you saw this one. I'll let you go first.
Yes, you can't go wrong with these movies. They're just funny no matter what. You could have the worst day, chuck a Despicable Me movie on or a Minion movie, and I'm sure by the end of it you'll be cracking up. The can't remember what the storyline for this one was. I think the
Cockroach
baby, yes, they had a baby. That's all I'll say. And then the baby in it ends up, its main thing. I'm waffling right now, but this movie, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll keep it short and sweet. I love it, and I hope there's more to come because they are just hilarious.
I love the Despicable Me films, and I wish that this was a trilogy because this fourth one was a mess. The villain was awful. There was a few comedic scenes. There was a cool introduction of a new character, but there was just some really stupid moments. And although it's a kids' film and you're trying to have a bit of fun, sometimes it just loses everything in this film and tries to be too many other films at once. So I'm on the opposite side of Tom here. He's given an 8. I'm giving it a 5. I just think it's extremely disappointing. And I mean, I'll go and see Despicable Me 5 because I know with how much money they make, this will end up being 9 films before they stop. But the villain was awful in this film. Absolutely awful and did nothing. Next up is Longlegs. Now, Longlegs is a controversial one for the year. There's people that love Longlegs and there's people that hate Longlegs. And Longlegs is almost like a meme of 2024 in parts. Nicolas Cage plays sort of a villain role. I believe he's done that in his career, but he does it again here. Longlegs tries to play on a lot of 90s, 2000s thriller films. And it's something that I really like. And I had a lot of fun with this film. And I thought, this is going to have some payoff. This is going somewhere. And guess where it went? Nowhere. That's where it went. Now, Longlegs, if you take out the last 20 minutes, is actually a really, really good film. But the last 20 minutes take away a lot of points for me. I still rate it really highly. I think you're crazy if you didn't have fun with this film into that sort of 15, 20-minute mark to go. Respect to the ending for a dark ending, but I'm going to give Longlegs a 7.5, and I think it ends around 15 minutes to go. I'd give it a 9. Next up, we've got Twisters, another one I watched on the plane. Yes, I was busy on my way to LA. I was not sleeping. I was watching movie ready for the yearly video. Twisters I avoided for a while, and then I finally went, you know what? I'll give it a go. And I thought it was cool. I thought the direction of the film was a bit of fun. I thought there was some, like, that wouldn't happen in real life sort of moments. There were some little surprises in the film. There was pretty good acting on the most part from everyone in the cast. I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it was good fun. I think it's good for a rewatch. And that's about all I've got to say for this one. All right, Tom, I'm going to let you go first here because some people like this one and some people hate it. Is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, what a movie this was. We've seen this at the cinemas from the day it came out, I think, or the night before. And
Yep.
What a movie. I watched this one again for like the third time when I was going over to Japan. I could see so many other people watching as well, and they were getting the same reactions as I was as the first time I watched it. This movie had everything you could want in it. I don't want to spoil it, and I'll let Hayden talk more about it in depth than that. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. This movie could be the best movie of the year.
Yeah, this movie, from the way it started, you knew it was going to be a lot of fun. It played on some darker sort of elements. It had some great action sequences, some massive surprises, as you said, Tom. I had a ton of fun. I had so much fun with this film, and I can understand why some people say that this is only like a 5 or a 6 because it's okay. It plays on nostalgia, and that's the way it does it. Well, no, it doesn't. It also plays on comic book accuracy, which is something that films have struggled with in a long time. This film gets so much right. Getting to see that yellow suit. The comedy of the film was great for 85%, but there was still 25% of dialogue that was pretty, like, I guess, cringe in part. But, I mean, you've watched it 3 times. I've watched it 5 times. I love this film. I've got a Deadpool and Wolverine t-shirt that I probably should have worn, but I probably would have given away my score. I agree with you, Tom. This film is a 10 out of 10. And yes, definitely up there with one of the films of the year. There's so much to say about this one. Next up is Harold and the Purple Crayon. And I've got the purple writing there representing Harold and his purple crayon. Now, I avoided this film. I thought this film looked awful. And I was just sitting on the plane going, let's watch this crap. I'll tell you what, I liked this film. I think this film is worth a watch. I think this film has some surprising sequences. I think this film has some good action. I think some good fantasy elements. I think the actors do a pretty good job on the most part. And I'd love to see a Harold and the Purple Crayon too. I don't know where they can go with the storyline because it sort of does wrap up around the end. But I thought Zachary Levi did a nice job. I thought the kid actors did a good job as well. The villain, who I won't say who the villain is, but the villain was a little bit cringy at parts. But respect, man. This movie flopped at the box office. I actually watched it and I had a ton of fun. So a decent rating. I'm going to give Harold and the Purple Crayon a 6.5 out of 10. Much higher than films like Kung Fu Panda or Abigail or Godzilla. This is one that really slept under the radar. This film's getting slept on. Next up is Beetlejuice. Now, I love the original Beetlejuice. So to see Michael Keaton return to this role after all this time was so interesting. Now, this film almost felt like it took a lot of things out of the first film and tried to redo it. It was funny. I can't remember if there was much action in it, but there were some cool sequences, some similar to the original. I don't know. I feel like I need to rewatch it, but I did definitely enjoy Beetlejuice. The new cast was really, really good as well. There was a great surprise in the film. Actually, yeah, it was a big surprise to me. I'm going to give Beetlejuice a 7.5 out of 10 overall. Joker, Folie à Deux. I love Joker 1. I hate Joker 2. Joker 2 is a mess. Now, I love musical films. Don't get me wrong. I love a good musical, whether it's Broadway, whether it's cinema. I do enjoy that. And I knew this film was going to be a musical. And I was nervous, but I looked for the direction. But the direction of this film was awful. It didn't feel like a Joker movie. It felt like an Arthur Fleck movie. I'm not going to spoil it, but what you did at the end is disrespectful. Enough talking about the worst film of the year. Joker, Folie à Deux, gets a 2.5 out of 10. All right, Tom, I've had my rant. Smile 2. You saw this one before me.
Yes, I did. I seen this with my girlfriend, and I feel like the first one was just a bit better. I made by a tiny bit. This one had some jump scares to it. I did see this late at night, so I was on edge, looking around, making sure no one was getting cursed or whatever. But this one was still pretty decent. Some gore in it, a lot of gore. The way it played out, I can't remember the ending, but I think it could lead on to a third one. If it does, I'm keen to see how that goes. I'll give this a 7.5.
Yeah, you mentioned comparing it to the first film, which I'll be honest, I do like the first film better. I think there were some really cool horror elements that this film did, but there were also some trope, cliche sort of moments. There was a great direction of camera work, especially this ending to the film. The ending was crazy, to be honest. The ending was absolutely mad, and I can't wait to see where they go with this franchise. I hope they don't milk it. I hope it does sort of get 3. A trilogy would be great. I think a 4th film would be okay, but any more than 4, and you'd start to be, you'd start to be pushing it. But I had a ton of fun with this film. I thought it was really scary. I thought there's one particular scene that actually gave me a jump scare, which a movie hasn't given me a good jump scare in a long time. I love the first one. I think I gave the first one like a 9.5 out of 10. I think this one's just a little bit under, but it's very, very close. Even the opening scene really sets the tone for the dark setting of the film. I'm going to give Smile 2 an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's one of the better films of the year, and sort of a surprise to see them back it up after such a short time, because they only sort of had 2 years to make this, and a lot of the time it's cash grab. Next up is Venom, The Last Dance. Now, Tom, you haven't gotten to see this one yet.
No, I have not. I don't think I've seen any of the Venom any of the Venom movies.
Well, I like Venom 1. I think it's a good film. I think it's disrespected quite a lot. I hate Venom 2. What you did was with Carnage is a joke. It was laughable. It was absolutely cringe from start to finish. So I wasn't looking forward to this film. But the film, for some reason, was actually enjoyable. It had some cool comedy within the film. It had some very, again, like Deadpool and Wolverine, some comic book accuracy sort of thing within this film. This film got absolutely shat on because it had maybe 2, 3 bad moments in the film. And my God, I agree with that. The dancing scene, what the hell are you doing? But I did have a good time watching this film. It surprised me. So it's probably higher than it deserves. But I'm going to give Venom The Last Dance a 7 out of 10. And I feel like maybe Venom will be back in the future. This is the last trilogy for now. But something tells me they'll bring Venom back. Maybe Marvel acquires the rights to Sony. But yeah. All right, next up is Wicked. Now, Wicked, Ariana Grande stepping into the roles as Glinda, the highly anticipated film based off the musical. I got to see this film in a full theater on Thanksgiving Day over in America, which was really, really cool. Now, I thought the trailers looked pretty awful. I thought there was like some cool adaptations, knowing Wizard of Oz, knowing Wicked. I thought there was some cool adaptations in direction they were going, but I didn't like the trailer. The casting was okay, but I thought it could have been better. I know Ariana Grande has wanted to play this role for all her life, but I guess I doubted her. Movie of the year, and it's not even close. This movie is absolutely brilliant. The songs are so catchy. The camera work, the special effects. The only issue with the film is probably color grading. They could have made the film shine a lot more in certain scenes. A nice surprise for people who obviously haven't seen the musical. Some great Wizard of Oz set up, some teasers. It is a long film, guys. It goes for I think it's like 2 hours, 35 minutes, something like that. It is a long film, but I've seen this film twice. Every time I watch it, absolutely love it. I think it's crazy that there's like a sing-along in theaters now, because I wouldn't be doing that. Just do that in your own home, guys, in my opinion. But, 10 out of 10. Up there with Deadpool and Wolverine for movie of the year. But for me, Wicked is got to be my movie of the year. I thought it was absolutely brilliant and really, really, really surprised me with how good it was. Next up is, we've got 4 to go, or 3 to go? 3 to go is Kraven the Hunter. Now, as a kid, I had Kraven the Hunter toys. I read Kraven the Hunter comics. I've been waiting for the adaptation of this character. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is a good actor, but I didn't know how he'd go in this role. And myself and Tom have seen films like Morbius, Madam Web, and known how crap those films are. So I wasn't expecting much. And this film feels like you're watching a film 20 years ago. But I don't mind that. I think the special effects aren't the greatest in the world. The action sequences are pretty good for the most part. It does take a little while to get sort of good, and it is a little bit jumpy. And there's maybe some characters that are sort of butchered in a way. But something about Kraven was fun. I know everyone is blasting the film, but something about Kraven, if you take away thinking it's going to be the best movie ever, just going into it, trying to have a decent time and say goodbye to this Sony-verse that sucked for years, I'm going to give Kraven the Hunter a 7 out of 10. Surprising. I did enjoy it, but when you watch it, I know you'll think it's a 2005 sort of movie. All right, Tom, we welcome you back for one final time this video with the Jason Bateman, Taron Egerton Netflix original Carry On, a Christmas special.
Yes, what a movie. I was in Japan when I watched this the night or two before we had to leave to go back home. So once I watched it, I was on edge, making sure no one had a suitcase that had the stuff on it. But the acting in it was pretty good. The cast members in it was good. There were some cringe moments in it, but all around, I liked this movie a lot. I'll give this a 9 out of 10.
I thought this film was very, very good, guys. I was very surprised. I thought the action was great, especially a certain car sequence. You'll know what I mean when I watched this. The mysteriousness of these characters. Jason Bateman in this type of role, something we haven't really seen. We've seen him as sort of an anti-hero from Ozark. Some unexpected things throughout the film. There were a few things in the film that didn't make sense for me, but overall, I've mentioned a few films that play off other films, and Carry On does that a lot, and that's the only reason I take that away, because it definitely could have been more in originality. But this is a pretty good film for Netflix to come out with this banger as an absolute sort of surprise of the year. I'm going to give Carry On an 8.5. I do want to mention here that when I was watching it with my girlfriend and my girlfriend's mum, our Netflix froze, and we went like 10 minutes without watching this film on a key scene. Netflix froze, had to restart everything. So maybe that took away some points waiting on that suspense. But there was like if you know what I mean, there was also like a Toy Story 2 fight battle sort of scene, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Yeah, which was cool to see that type of thing. So yeah, Carry On for me, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. And the final film on this list. Now, Tom and I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Unfortunately, I dogged Tom. It's a running joke between us that there was a mate from school that I caught up with and went and saw Sonic 2. So he decided not to see Sonic 3 with me as a bit of vengeance for that happening. Yep. And obviously the post-credit scene of Sonic 2, spoilers, introduced Shadow. We were looking forward to this Keanu Reeves playing Shadow. We've had a Knuckles sort of spin-off. We've had Knuckles, Tail. Now we get Shadow in this film. Sonic 2 was a banger. Sonic 1 was pretty good for the most part. How is Sonic 3 going to be? Jim Carrey returns in his iconic role. And spoiler alert, in a sense, he has more of a role to play. He has more to do in this film, if you know what I mean. But I had a great time with Sonic 3. I really enjoyed it. And I think the comedy work, I thought I was laughing from start to finish. I thought it was a little bit slow to get into its main story. It went in a dark direction for a kid's film as well. There were some surprises in this film. There were some great video game sort of sequences played out, and it takes things from other movies that you might remember and reuses them, which is really, really cool. It ends in a direction where there's probably going to be 5 more Sonic, probably like 2 more Sonic films, but they could absolutely keep going with this franchise. Could have ended it here as a massive, amazing trilogy, but there's so much to do with the, Sonic universe. But Sonic 3, one of the surprises of the year, and that mainly be to Jim Carrey, who, if it does end up being his final acting film, we know he's been struggling mental health-wise for a while. We know he retired from this role and said he'd like to come back as a sort of executive director of The Grinch or The Mask. This could be it for Jim Carrey in acting. He'll be back for Sonic 4. But I had a ton of fun with this film and quite a high rating. I'm going to give Sonic 3 an 8 out of 10. Ooh. So let's talk about our best and worst of the year to finish off the video, Tom. For me, my top 2 films of the year is Wicked and Deadpool and Wolverine. just purely because they're 10 out of 10 films for mine. Runner-up would be The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, being a big surprise, but getting an 8.5. So there's no film that I actually rated a 9 out of 10 this year. It was films that were close to being perfect and films that were perfect. Normally I have a couple of 9s. I'll let you go first for your best, and before I get into my worst.
My top 2, I'd go second would be Carry On. I did enjoy that. That was a great movie. And my number 1, as I said, was a 10 out of 10 before, Deadpool and Wolverine. And I will go to the grave on that was movie of the year, and that everyone that sleeps on it, go watch it again.
Good choice, good choice. Well, my worst of the year, I mentioned it, number 1 is Joker, Folie à Deux, getting 2.5. Just absolute mess of a film. Second place, A Quiet Place, day 1. Just didn't enjoy the film at all. No direction. And, man, it felt like it was filmed like the Blair Witch Project. It was just too dark and shaky. And coming in runner-up, but you were still pretty awful, was Jack Black in Kung Fu Panda 4 for my worst of 2024.
Yes, I'd probably go the same. I'd go Kung Fu Panda and Roadhouse. As much as I liked some of the action and cringiness, it was just a shocking film.
There we go, guys. Well, that is every movie that we both saw in 2024. Tom probably saw some others that I didn't get to see, and obviously there are a few that I saw that Tom didn't get to. Let's try and make it a challenge to see as many films in 2025 as possible to bring back this video. I think it'll be like our 5th year anniversary doing this video this time next year. So I hope everyone has a happy new year. Have a great 2025. It was great to have O'Frenzy back on the channel, and hopefully you'll be at some more Parramatta games this year, man.
Go Para.
Go Para. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe. At 5,000 subscribers, I will be giving away an NRL membership. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.